The institutionalised pro-EU mentality explains why the mandarins have been so desperate to thwart Brexit. They tried to fix the outcome of the referendum with Project Fear, full of alarmist claims about economic meltdown if the public refused to back the Remain cause. A vote to leave would represent an immediate and profound shock to our economy. That shock would push the economy into recession, declared one Treasury dossier in May 2016. Those dire predictions never materialized. Instead, since June 2016, the economy has been characterized by steady growth, falling unemployment, record manufacturing orders, and drops in government borrowing. Undaunted, the Ramona establishment has now decided to resurrect Project Fear. This week there was a leak of extracts from a Whitehall report which was packed with the usual grim forecasts of economic decline as a consequence of Brexit. In the pessimistic tones so typical of the Ramonas, the document argued that economic growth would fall by 5% over the next 15 years if the UK left the EU with a free trade agreement, and by 8% if Brexit were implemented without any deal. Given officialdom's hostility to Brexit, it is widely suspected that this negative briefing was deliberately leaked as part of a civil service plot to fuel support for Remain. One cabinet source said yesterday that it was the work of mandarins colluding in an operation designed to bounce ministers into a softer Brexit. Whatever the truth about the origins of the leak, the extracts have been exploited by Ramona politicians who think they have the ammunition to step up the fight against British withdrawal. That is why arch-pro-EU figures such as Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon and noisy Tory backbencher Nicky Morgan are vociferously demanding the publication of the report in full. The Ramonas are deluded if they think that yet another bout of Treasury scaremongering will turn the public against Brexit. After so many errors, voters attach little credence to the prognostications of politically motivated officials. Indeed, the Treasury is one of the worst culprits, and not just over the immediate aftermath of Brexit. This is the body that comprehensively failed to foresee the 2008 financial crash, complacently assuring us that the economy would grow by 2% that year when it actually shrank by 0.5%. As the Brexit minister Steve Baker acidly said yesterday, quoting economist J.K. Galbraith, the only purpose of economic forecasts is to make astrology look respectable, but the same pattern is repeated across Whitehall. The Home Office, for instance, notoriously stated that in 2004 the accession of the former communist states of Eastern Europe into the EU would lead to an influx of just 13,000 migrants here. In fact, more than 1 million came. One of the worst features of all these ill-conceived prophecies is the belief that there is some kind of inevitability about the outcomes. But our course can be changed by political action. There is nothing fixed about our post-Brexit economic future. It will be decided by a host of factors, such as tax policy, international trade deals, public expenditure levels, and immigration rates. Across the Atlantic, the conventional wisdom was that Donald Trump's presidency would be a disaster for the U.S. economy. The opposite is true because of major tax cuts and a bonfire of regulations. The key point about Brexit is that our destiny will be in our own hands. That is why it is so meaningless to make predictions about what will happen more than 10 years from now. But even more importantly, our departure from the EU is about far more than just the economy. What really drives the leave cause is the desire that we should be a self-governing nation once again. In their endless prattle about GDP figures, the Ramonas reveal the failure to understand the spirit of the British people, who cherish freedom, democracy, and nationhood. We are more concerned about control of our borders, justice, laws, and trade than about academic calibrations in growth rates. Disdainful of national sovereignty and identity, the Ramonas sneeringly portray the Brexit process as a form of xenophobia. Yet the cause of national liberty is one of mankind's most noble ideals, one that inspired the American Revolution, the struggle for Irish independence, and the post-war movement for colonial freedom. It was also the impulse that drove Britain's heroic stand against tyranny in 1940, when the conventional, appeasing outlook of the civil service and the political establishment was that we had to negotiate a deal with Hitler's Reich. The true cost of staying in the EU would be far higher than anything that the Treasury now predicts. We would become nothing more than a regional province in a vast, German-led federal superstate, robbed of all national self-respect. That is a humiliating price we should never pay.